Hey guys, this is Bevan here, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to shoot bodyboarding and surfing POV footage using a mouth mount. Now let's start off with a few definitions. POV basically stands for point of view, and that means that everything you see is going to be seen through the eyes of the person who took the shot. It's a great dynamic angle and really gives the viewer that feeling of being the character in the scene. It's also an excellent angle for shooting surfing and bodyboarding, particularly barrel shots. It gets you right into that chaos and fury of the barrel and lets you relive that moment over and over again. Then next up, a mouth mount is basically a device that lets you shoot with your GoPro completely hands-free, because you're going to be holding it in place by biting onto a bite plate such as this one over here. Now this is the model that I normally use. This is the Pro Standard Grill mouth mount. And as you can tell, this one is broken. It recently gave up the ghost, and so I'm going to be buying myself a new one. And I thought this would be a great opportunity then to talk about mouth mounts and some of my considerations when I buy one, so that maybe there's something for you to think about if you're thinking of getting one yourself. So with that introduction, let's jump in. So firstly, there are dozens of different designs of mouth mounts, but I'm going to be using my one as the example in this video, and I'm going to show you how I set this up for my own surf shoots. So the first thing you'll need to do once you've bought your mouth mount out the box is mold the bite plate. And basically that's this area right back here. And to do that, you're going to boil some water, put it into a cup or a bowl, and then place these bite areas right into that boiling water and keep it there until the material gets very malleable. Once that happens, you take it out, let it cool off for a few seconds, and put it in your mouth and bite down. Now what that's going to do is mold this to your teeth and really give you a nice firm grip on the mount. The next thing you're going to want to do is set your GoPro's shoot orientation to upside down, because when you attach your GoPro, you're going to be attaching it upside down. And doing this is just going to help you in post-production so that you don't have to just keep flipping all your images. And then obviously the last thing you have to do is just place and angle your GoPro. Now in this particular design, I have these measurement bars over here, so I can angle it up or I can angle it down, and I can pretty much use this as a reference so I can get the same angle as shots I've taken before. Now there are a few extras that I like to use. Namely, I like to use this nylon cord over here, which I attach to the middle rung of the mouth mount over here. Now this will secure the mount, and then with the back piece, I tie this onto my wetsuit cord. Now that just gives me a bit of peace of mind in case I lose this. I know that it's not going to be going too far away. Another thing I like to do for peace of mind is use a floaty back. Now not many people like to use the floaty back for mouth mount shots because it does get in the way, but I like the added assurance, so I definitely use that for my shots. The next thing you're going to want to set is actually the shooting settings on your GoPro. Now I like to use the super wide view, I like to use 1080p at 120 frames a second, but that's really up to you. I also like to use the rabbit mode, which means that I can turn the GoPro on and off by just hitting record, and then that helps me to shoot very short clips while I'm out there and not worry about whether the GoPro is on or not. Another thing that I like to do is set the angle of my GoPro before I get into the water. So if I'm going to be on the bodyboard shooting barrel shots and things like that, I like to set the angle quite high, aiming quite up. So on this model here, there's the second to last rung. I use that as my reference measurement. And what that allows me to get is the roof of the barrel as well as the sides, which is really what I feel you're after when you're shooting a barrel shot. If I'm stand-up surfing and I want to shoot maneuvers and things like that, then I will angle this a lot further down. I'll actually get the floaty back to rest up against my chin and get this angle as far down as I can go. The reason for that is I want to be able to see my board and sometimes my feet, and I just really like that angle for turns and little pop airs and things like that. So that's my basic setup, and all that's really left now is to talk about how to operate this when you're in the water. The first challenge you're going to face is actually paddling out. Now, it might seem a little bit silly, but if you're caught on the inside with the GoPro in your mouth, it's not the greatest situation to be in. So when I'm paddling out on the bodyboard, it's a bit easier. I can hold it, I can one-arm paddle out, so I can just kick myself out. On the surfboard, it's a little more tricky. Obviously, I need both my arms to paddle. In that case, it can go in my mouth. Or if I'm wearing a wetsuit, I just shove it down there and deal with a few cold water flushes until I get out to the back line. Now, obviously, the situation you want to avoid is getting caught on the inside and having a big wave land in front of you. If it's a little foamy, you can duck under nicely and easily with it in your mouth, but a really big, heavy wave is not great. I find that's when things want to break, that's when things feel very uncomfortable. So in that situation, I will take it out, I will hold it in my hand, bail my board if it's safe to do so, and just dive on to the bottom and deal with whatever happens next. So once you're out to the back line, you're in the lineup, you're waiting for the waves, the next thing to do is really try to anticipate a wave early. There's nothing worse than paddling onto a wave, realizing it's shifting, trying to follow it, and trying to press record at the same time. So what I like to do is, as I see the wave coming on the horizon, I just press record and go. If I miss the wave, I've missed nothing really. If I get onto the wave, at least I've gotten on nice and early, and I can always trim my clip later on. What I can't do is add footage to a wave that I've already missed. The next thing you want to think about is the lens. Now, ideally, you want to keep the lens free of all kinds of water droplets and things like that. But to be honest with you, that's almost impossible out in the ocean. When you're paddling onto a wave or there's a wind, it's inevitable that water droplets will get onto the surface. But what's kind of cool is that as you ride and you get a bit of speed, they tend to blow themselves off. What you can't really deal with as easily, on the other hand, is if you're using your finger to clean the lens. Your finger at best is full of grease, at worst it's full of sun cream, and if you wipe that across the lens, that has a massive impact on your footage. It looks misty and horrible. It's just a terrible thing to do. So now let's take a look at a few pros and cons of shooting with a GoPro and a mouth mount. Let's start with a few pros. Firstly, the POV angle is one of my favorites. I far prefer the mouth mount angle to a helmet cam, say. I find with helmet cams, sometimes, especially in a smaller barrel, the GoPro gets caught up in the lip and you kind of lose the view for a little while. It's also tricky to shoot with, whereas the mouth mount, what your eyes are seeing is generally what the camera's seeing as well. So I really like that. It's also definitely the smallest rig you can possibly get. I mean, that's all it is right there. So throwing it in a bag, transporting it, using it, moving around with it is very, very easy. And then finally, a great pro, especially for the pro standard model with this wishbone here, is that if I flip it upside down and I place it on my bodyboard and I put my trailing hand on top, this actually gives me a second angle. So I can catch a few waves with it in my mouth, I can catch a few with it like this, and that just gives me another angle for added interest in my final edit. Now for a few cons. The first one, and probably my biggest pet peeve when it comes to shooting with the mouth mount, is paddling onto a wave. I really like to put my chin down and I like to really go for it when I'm paddling on. And this definitely gets in the way of that. Either because the GoPro sits a little bit low, I can't get my chin down onto my board, or if I do, it ends up turning the angle a little bit higher than I want it. So that's one thing that I don't like about it, and something that's difficult to get around. You've got to arch your back, so it means changing your style of paddling. With a surfboard, that's a lot easier. With the bodyboard, not so much. The next con is that it absolutely affects your surf when you're trying to shoot at the same time, especially with the mouth mount. I find that I go from, say, 100% down to 80% just because I've always got it in the back of my mind that this is in my mouth. So if I'm bodyboarding and I go up to hit the lip, I'm always thinking about landing on this thing and breaking either the GoPro or my jaw, and that's obviously not what you want to be thinking about when you're trying to do maneuvers. On the surfboard, when you're tucking into a barrel, you're always thinking, oh, what if I fall off? What's going to happen? Is this going to knock me in the eye? So it's always in the back of your mind, and that does affect your surf. I also found breathing with a mouth mount something to get used to. It was quite strange at first. This particular design is quite nice because it gives you this gap here with the wishbone, but there's always little water droplets right at the entrance, and it took a while to learn how to not suck those in. Also, I had to learn to make sure I closed my mouth every now and then. So while this is a nice handy breathing space, you should also close your lips because, especially if you're shooting for a long time with this in your mouth, I actually ended up getting dehydrated on one shoot because I was on the motorcycle and my mouth was just a little bit open the whole time and all the moisture got sucked out and I ended up not feeling great for the rest of the day. And finally, some people have complained that shooting with a mouth mount makes them want to gag. Now, I personally haven't had this. Maybe it's just because of this design or something like that. but a lot of people who do try mouth mounts say that it kind of triggers the gag reflex and doesn't feel comfortable. So while I haven't felt it myself, I thought it was just worth putting it out there as something to consider. So in closing, I absolutely love the POV angle, particularly the one that you get from a mouth mount. This Pro Standard model itself is one of my favorites, and now that this one's broken and I've got to go buy another one, I'm probably going to get another one of these. Now, I've left a few links in the description below to this particular model, plus a few others you can try out and check out. But I hope I've given you a few things to consider, and I hope you found this video helpful. If you'd like more gear reviews or adventure guides or any kind of outdoor content, that's what we're all about here on this channel. So hit subscribe, put the notification bell on, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.